We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such.
Are you serious? Like, we at season 7, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons. Yeah, season 7. Magic number. If you know, you know. I'm not gonna go in depth with that, but yeah, this will be a very positive season. I don't know why and what's making me say that, but everything's changed. I'm still, like I said, stuff is very fluctuating now. I found that the connection with things is to get people to talk, as well as me taking time to talk. So you'll notice it, especially when you hear the first few episodes of this season. But it's just about sitting down and just having good talk, good conversation. Pass the message. Y'all know they ain't going nowhere. If you know, you know. If you've been around for a while, you already know how we give it up. But just hang in there. The content's amazing. The moves are even more amazing. And just put yourself in the right headspace to get this information. So hope y'all enjoy. All right, man. We got our illusionist fiddlestick back in the mix, and I got my koosh ball back, and we are back to doing what we do best, which is create content and record episodes. Welcome to 392. Hopefully that is the number, because there's quite a few archived shows that have not officially gone live yet, but we'll talk about that accordingly. I am your host, BT, with yet another episode, and boy, have I been out of the loop. I want to start off by just wishing you all well. I hope everyone's mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and creatively in their right state of mind, which reminds me, I'm going to mark this now because I need to put a check-in on something that I'm supposed to do. So I'll remember to do that after the show. But man, it feels like I've not been recording, but I've been recording. And like I said, I'll explain that now, since I always like to be real when I talk about things on the show. So you're gonna notice that there will be a large queue of episodes that will be uploaded to the page, because let's face it, I have not really shared or created anything podcast wise in a couple of weeks, but I have been working on podcasts. They just aren't uploaded to the podcast page. So first and foremost, as many of you may or may not be aware, I was away for a little while doing participating with Afrotech. So while I was at Afrotech, I did record quite a few episodes there, and those will be uploaded first and foremost. I think I may have some non-Afrotech podcasts in the queue as well, so I'll be sure to get those uploaded as well. And of course, if you've been keeping up with the show, I've been trying this out and it's been working, so I'm sticking with it. But you will hear a couple of some walking. I guess you can call them walkcasts, walking while recording, I guess, as well as some kind of impromptu brief walk updates on the go. So just want to be sure no one's like out of the loop or kind of surprised by what they hear or may not hear, or might be behind on when you're listening to the shows as they get uploaded, because they're going to drop in one drop, but they're going to have like the dates for when they were recorded. So you're not like, well, when was this show and how did you get? So I'll be sure that that's all up to date. You all, I mean, as listeners, if you've been following my show, y'all know how it go. Like I'll have a stint where nothing gets uploaded, and then all of a sudden it's like, how did you get all of these shows to be pulled in one queue? And it's like, hey, sometimes, as I say frequently and often, as a creator, you find yourself creating content and just kind of rolling with it as deemed necessary. So that is that on that. This is my first, I guess, weekly show for the month, since, like I said, I've been kind of out of the mix for a little while, and it'll probably be a impromptu but not unplanned flow with how we do the shows, only because there should be one next week. I'm not sure where I'm going to record it, because I'm not sure of I gotta check the scheduling for where I record, if it'll be open or if I need to do my famous record from home, but clean up, do massive background cleanup. And if you've been listening to my shows when I record at home, you know exactly what I mean, and we'll leave it at that. But feels good to be back. Feels good to be back in the space of just creating and recording and kind of getting you all some information as to what's been going on and what has kind of hit the airwaves. So this show should be a good one. I'll say that starting off. So I have my list, and y'all know when I come back, anytime that and this is just a proven fact, anytime that I've been away from recording for a while, it's like I got to come back and get back into the groove of like, all right, let me write out some stuff and not just sit here and ramble, because if I do, the show will turn into like a 20-minute ramble of me just talking about different things. So first up on the list, and ironically, I've added to this collection of the Anker addiction. I have accepted that Anker is probably my source of product for quite a few accessories. Case in point, I have I got a lot of 10,000 milliamp power banks just ready to go. I have two 10,000s. I have one 20K, a big boy. I'm now using an accessory for recording my podcast. When I say, well, let me rephrase it. I have a new accessory I'm going to be using more with my laptop, where I don't have to worry with bringing a power brick to charge my laptop. I can just plug the laptop in directly to this accessory, which is the Anker Prime, one of the Anker Prime accessories. And it is probably one of my faves that I've grown to love, just because of the simple fact that it gives you six outlets on the go. So for anyone who's not aware, your typical, when you get most of your power bricks to just plug into the wall, it's usually going to have one port, either going to be USB-A or USB-C. And USB-A, as most of you may or may not be aware, if this is tech lingo that might skip by you, I'll lame it as best as I can. But USB-A is going to be your lower, slower wattage, not going to really get the best charge from using it. Whereas USB-C is known as your fast charge. You'll hear the terms fast charge. You'll hear IQ. You'll hear PD, which is a much quicker charge. The newest thing now is GaN. GaN is like gallium power that gives you a much larger charge, like upwards of anything above 60. You're getting a pretty good wattage going into a device. So the Anker Prime, my smaller one of my 10,000 power banks, and the 20,000 that I bought are all GaN friendly, and it makes a big difference when it comes to charging or recharging devices. If you've been under a rock and I haven't talked, this is actually my first podcast sitting to share, but I did do some upgrades over the last few weeks with some of my tech. I have let go of my iPhone 15, sadly, and it is now, not my iPhone 15, my iPhone 12 Pro. I've had the Pro, the recent one I had for a couple of months, but before that I've been with the iPhone Pro 12 Pro for about close to 2.5 years, and now I'm on the 15 Pro Max. Big difference in screen size as well as battery life. Like I think right now I probably am like in the 90s. Yeah, 94%. Like it's something crazy has to happen for you to really run your battery low, which is just your traditional everyday scrolling or just watching videos. And even watching a lot of videos doesn't have as big of a hit as you would expect it to. So I like that factor more than anything else. The newest one that I just recently got a couple of, probably not even half hour ago. I'm beginning to, I thought I wasn't going to like this charger, but I think this charger is going to be a good resource to have as like hey, I need something just kind of like a quick on the go charger that isn't in the way. It can be used either MagSafe wise, or I can just literally have it as a power bank to just kind of plug and go if I need to charge different things, different accessories. So win-win there by far. Yeah, man, I'm definitely falling into the Anker circle of accessories. So funny thing is, as I'm sharing this on the podcast, someone brought up an idea that I'm really considering, and if you know what I'm talking about, I'll let your brain run wild with that. So that's some homework that I started on but didn't really fully finish. So gonna be giving some praise on that in time for the most part. So Anker is my unofficial / official go-to. You will see some form of it. You will see some form of an Anker accessory from me in some aspect. It's been between Anker and Basis that I've had one of, if not many of their accessories, and they don't miss. One of my faves still to this day, without getting too nerdy or too technical, is the Anker Nano, the 30 watt edition, because even if your device doesn't charge up to a 30 watt, it, like the iPhone 15 Pro Max, I think can go up to 22 and a half. I've seen it or heard some people say that it can go up to 30. I've literally bought cables by a brand called AOHI, and they have a wattage meter on the side of the cables, which to some people it's like, Brian, it's not that deep, it ain't even that type of party. But personally, using them firsthand, I love them. Before I go any further on the show, I wanted to share something because it was something that I saw as I was getting prepared, and this is why I like doing what I do. I was seeing a couple young ladies getting ready to go to, I guess, a room that they reserved, coming in with like microphones, pop filters, headsets, everything. And I'm like, this is what I call creating content. Like, I think people don't realize you don't need to do a lot to do something simple. And what I mean by that is having the things that you need to record. Yeah, some of it may be a bit pricey, but if you're not in that budget to do the pricey option, work with what you have. Like, I've shared this multiple times without saying it. Earbuds, wired, wireless, doesn't matter. And your phone, you can record. You can literally record audio. Now, yeah, your audio may not be the cleanest. It may have some hiccups here and there, but if you're just needing to get something that's going to be shared with others, start there and then expand. I know that's like an early passive message, but I wanted to talk about that while I was thinking about it. So yeah, that's my overall Anker addiction. I know I've kind of went a little bit lengthy with that, but I wanted to get into that early. We do slip a little bit of sports. I'm going to get into that later because there were some stories, but there weren't stories. But there was one story that stood out, and I'm going to talk about that when we get to it. The fidgeting battle continues, and the fidgeting battle is back because I talked about it at the beginning, and you probably are going to hear this sound from time to time of one of my fidgets that probably might be claimed as my fave, and that is the Illusionist Fiddlestick. So if you go on illusionist.com, which I will share the link in the show notes, they hopefully still will have these in stock, because what happens is the other model that they let me I'll kind of paint y'all a timeline. You know how we do. Probably about a year or so ago, Illusionist brought out the original Fiddlestick, which was in black, pink, and blue. Anytime you go on the website, they would have it in black or they would have it in blue. I never saw a pink one really be sold or presented, but they would have most of the black and blue ones. I would usually get one, and then somehow someone I would know would say, "Oh, I like that one. Can I use yours?" And I'm like, "Sure, no big deal. Possibly can get another one." And I would have spares that were available, but they would get lost, or someone would. I think one I had with me, and I misplaced it as I was packing, and it never made it back home. And I was like, dang, that was like one of my faves. So, hey, things happen, but the site had it out of stock for a while. The site ironically went through a rebrand, very quiet yet unique rebrand that a lot of people don't like. I've seen some videos talk about it. But in the rebrand, the Illusionist brings back the Fiddlestick. But this one, it's the same product. They just changed the look and some of the features for it, which I'm going to talk about real quick. One, it is not the colors that I mentioned. They show those colors, but the option that you get now is what they call glow in the dark. So the outer casing is white. If it sits in light long enough and you sit it somewhere just to like in a non-lit area, you will see it glow in the dark. I'm not really that pressed about the glow in the dark part of it because most of the time when I'm using this is during the daytime anyway. The color scheme is more of it kind of has like a Christmassy look to it, but it's really not. It's just the portion that has like the hook and it's a button on it as well as it's a slider. Those three parts are all red. But there are a set of buttons on the side. One of those buttons is red, but the rest of it is like a teal green color. And I've like as soon as I went to Afrotech. When I came back, literally that first day I got back in town, I saw that the package had arrived. I think someone who knows me was trying to get. They thought it was theirs, realized it wasn't, and so it was just there. And I was like, "Oh, okay, this is mine." So I opened it, and literally the next day, I broke that bad boy out. And I said it's so interesting because whenever I sit it on my desk or when I sit it anywhere, the first thing someone will say is that a vape? And I'm like, it is definitely not a vape. Like if you know me on a personal level, you would know that I don't even vape. So I was like, hey, conversation, I'm fine with it, cool, whatever. But this is like probably my fave fidget. Now, 1A I don't have with me, but 1A, it's like a 1 and 1A. 1A would be the Ono roller. I am in love with the Ono roller on so many levels because I will literally sit somewhere and just use the Ono roller for quite a while. If you look in the bio, I do have a promo link if you want to support for sponsorship, and it's not even sponsorship. Just if you're looking to want to buy one, you can use that and get a discount for purchasing one. But the Ono roller, I currently am in possession of 3 of them, but I will soon have 4 because I had a 4th one. I gave the 4th one to someone else, and I was like, I need that one back. So I went and got that specific color and also a new accessory they have coming that is supposed to almost be like a rollerball feature, but it's just that, and they have it where it'll be on a keychain. When that comes in the mail and I receive that, I probably will be redoing this list of fidget accessories because that has probably been one that I was really anticipating. It was the first and probably will be the only time I do a Kickstarter because I usually don't mess with Kickstarter applications or Kickstarter products. I'm like, okay, the product's there, it's being backed. Let's just wait. Once it comes out and goes live, then I'll buy like an official one off of the site. but you're able to get it. Getting it through that gives you like a bit of a discount, and also gives you like an early access. Which, I mean, the guy who runs it, he literally sent out the information of, asking for whatever information he needs from you to ship it. Couldn't even have been a week, and it was like, okay, we have your tracking information, and I was like, oh, they own it. Tracking information gets sent, and it literally will be it will likely be arriving not long after I finish this podcast, which I'm totally okay with, because I know I'm going to use it to its maximum. Before I go any further with the fidgeting, I want to add something too, and I've shared this without sharing this, and I'm talking about this early because I want people to really hear what I'm about to say. Don't get caught in the TikTok shop addiction, but if you find good products, get what you get, because everything that I've gotten through TikTok shop has been on point. And I know a lot of people are not a fan of this other company I'm about to talk about, but Temu has been giving. I'll say that. And I've bought those unexpected products that have just worked in the right time and place, and I don't regret it at all. So that's my spiel there. But returning back to fidgeting, I promise y'all, yes, this podcast has got a little bit of an all over the place feel to it, but there's definitely a method to the madness. So just hang tight with me. Next up in the fidgeting category would be the fidget cube. The fidget cube is what started this whole fidget addiction. And there's another accessory that kind of started it too, and I'm using one of those now, and I've almost talked about it in a podcast, but I've also had it as like a funny conversation on the podcast too, so I'll talk about that as well. But the fidget cube, ANSI Labs did not miss. ANSI Labs has gotten me on every occasion. Like, I've gotten the version of the fidget cube I have, I don't even think they make anymore, because it's called the gamer version. It's called G4 MER, like to represent the gaming style. It has like a Nintendo / Super Nintendo feel to it, with the yellow, green, blue, and red color scheme going on. And I love it. Like, I literally, if I'm going somewhere and I'm like, hey, I need something, and if I don't have like the fiddlestick, I don't have the Ono roller, definitely using the fidget cube. Love the fidget cube. They still make the traditional styles. You will find fidget cubes at Walmart. My personal preference, if you're gonna get it directly from the site. But I'm not against you getting it from other places. But the version of the one that I have has been an authentic and a solid OG. Even have a holder for it if I want to put it on my keychain. But I usually just carry it around in general. Always, like when I'm doing like my inventory, like what do I have, what do I need to take with me, I make sure that's in my bag as I'm going to different places. Like I said, I didn't bring it with me today. It is probably one of the louder ones, but it's also the quietest, because it has a couple of quiet resources on it as well. I'm not going to explain any of them because it will definitely put me in the pause category, but I want to share that while I'm thinking about it. Next on the list would be the fidget spinner. Fidget spinner's been out forever. Right now, believe it or not, I'm down to just 2 fidget spinners. I have what most people call the Secret Service, which was a very small fidget spinner, but it spins very, very fast, and it's probably the smallest yet most resourceful fidget accessory you can have. I think the new Ono accessory might give it a run for its money, my personal take. But I would say that's in that category of like, it's a very quick, hey, you need to fidget with something real quick, you can get it out and fidget how you need to fidget. The other one is a traditional three-sided fidget spinner. I was able to get one, which I still have, that has my initials on it, because it was like you could get it custom made. And how I asked to have it custom made, it was supposed to be custom made based on how people, when they put like their initials on their like lunch boxes, A lot of people did like it's a letter blocking that allows you to put, I guess, like your first initial, your middle initial, and your last name can be like the larger initial in the middle. The seller who I got it from was very nice in understanding what I requested, where I wanted the initials to be in order for my personal initials, and what I asked for was what I received, and I've been very pleased with having that fidget spinner. I don't use it a lot, but I do have it as kind of like a, hey, I purchased it, so I want the investment to get its proper use. But yeah, that's kind of my tangent without being my tangent about the fidget world in that particular one. The final one, and ironically, I have one of these at home, one of these at work, and one that goes with me everywhere. And that is the Koosh Ball. Now, the one I have with me now is not the official Koosh Ball brand, but it has the same look, feel, style of the Koosh Ball. The story behind this one is I was doing a podcast. Well, let me backtrack. Last year I was doing a podcast and I had a Koosh Ball, which is one of the two that I either have at work or at home. I think it's the one I have at home. But the one at that particular one, I remember I had a guest of mine on, Chris, who I still owe her I need to check her out on a Tuesday. I keep not doing it for just personal reasons and forgetting and life. But she was on the show one week. And she saw that I had this, and she was like, "Oh, this is like so fun and like it's fidgety." And the thing that's funny is like you can hear that now, but most of the time, like I could be sitting here doing this, and you may hear it, you may not hear it because of me talking. But I have this as like my available resource, like even down to my friend Nishan, who's been on the podcast before. He like was wondering when I would be on the podcast. He was like, what is that, and what has caused you to be so latched? And I was like, bro, it's my way of like doing something to not be bored and to keep my brain going in some aspect. And I've done this probably for the last 4 or 5 years, especially with doing a podcast. It has become like a staple to my podcasting now. Like people who have sat with me and realized that I do it, they don't even really pay it any attention anymore. They just look at it like, oh, this is Brian chilling, he's good. It's nothing that we need to worry about. But it is like my way of being able to not do something that's antsy and annoying, like clicking a pen. Can't stand it. Like on this one, some people will get, whenever they get this one from me, they go to the ones that are the loudest. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I did not give it to you to like make a whole bunch of noise, but it has some noise options on. This is the fiddle stick, by the way. And the reason to rewind back to that, this is one because the one feature that I use it for the most is what most people don't use it for. And also, and I forgot to add this, when this fiddle stick first came out, it came with an accessory that would allow you to twist off one of the ends, and you could add on like this light, I guess you can call it like a light show. Well, when they brought out the second version, the reason why it's a glow in the dark and the change happened there is because this end piece, you can't take it off anymore. It's literally like locked on. Like I've tried everything possible. Like today is like the first day in a while that I've been able to like get it to actually twist, but it just twists enough to just rotate, but it doesn't twist with the intent of you being able to take it off. So I say that only because it doesn't have that option for you to add anything on the end, but I still do like this one for that reason. But the drawback and why the 1A conversation comes about is because the Ono roller, out of all of the accessories, is the quietest fiddle accessory, or the quietest fidgeting accessory I have. So I always like to talk about it. Like the only dilemma I have with it, which when I'm doing a podcast, it's so tough, is I'll be using the Ono roller, and when I stop using it, I have to put it on the table. But I always have to sit it a certain way, because if you try sitting it flat on its rolling side, you can hear it when it hits the table. Whereas if I sit it just upright, then it just sits. But I make sure I sit it a certain way so it's not loud and it doesn't affect anyone's like eardrums while recording. And by the way, side note, because I am working to listen to her podcast more. There's a young lady who I listen to for her podcast, and she's titled it Earballs, and it's probably the most creative reference I've heard for podcasting by far. But yeah, I just try not to affect people. I call it what it is. I call it eardrums. But yeah, I just don't want to mess with anybody's hearing it at any cost. So that's the long-winded version of my fidgeting and my tech tangent, if you will. I put positivity outpouring. Not really sure. I know it's a reason, but really zoning in and honing in on like being positive, being around people who are doing and being productive and being positive has been a game changer, to say the least. To add to that, I will come clean in sharing that, and this is going to really ruffle some tension and ruffle some space. So if it hits you, and I'm not sorry. The energy vampires have got to go. And a lot of people don't even know that they're energy vampires. And they may not be energy vampires to everyone, but they could be energy vampires to you. And you can feel the impact of their energy vampire-like ways causing you to have a burnout. And a lot of times people, it's not even that it's their intention or not to be an energy vampire. It's just some people can wear you down more than they realize that they do. And lately I've kind of started to sit with the importance of, okay, are you pouring into me or are you pulling from me? And there are some people who pour into you and can still pull from you right after they do the pouring. And you have to be aware of them as well. But really sit and take time to embrace who's been pouring and who's been pulling. And if a lot of pulling has been happening, then you might have to pull back. And there's nothing wrong with that in your growth or in your journey or in your life, because some people, it's not even that we're trying not to do it, but we're giving them our best, our best effort, our best energy, because, we're looking at it as, hey, they're deserving of it. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter of like knowing how to deal with that when it occurs. That's kind of like the X factor more than anything else. So it's just something to consider or look at down the line. Reflection and personal check-in. So as you all know, if you have or have not been listening to the podcast, I always like to do what's called the Fab Five. And the Fab Five consists of where are you at mentally, where are you at personally, where are you at professionally, where are you at creatively, and also having a feeling. And I was like, I'm going to remember what these are, and I'm going to do it before I bring, because I have a visual of this. I've saved a note on Apple Notes that I go to like remind me to get me back on track with this. But mental right now is at about a 7. Professional right now is at about a 7, 7.3, 7.4. Personal is at about a 6-ish. It's been a bumpy road, man. That's really the best I have for it. Creative has been a 4. And the only reason it's that low is because I really have not created the way that I would like to create. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not creating content. I'm not saying that I haven't been creative in any way, shape, or form. But the things that I'm accustomed to doing for creativity have slacked a little bit. And I personally am not a fan of that. And that's something that I'm open to accepting to change for its, for lack of a better term. My feeling right now, I would say, is valued. I'm beginning to learn to value myself a lot more and not seek value or validation from anybody else. It's good to know or hear from people that, hey, you're doing a good job, or hey, you're working through it. But I'm not as pulled in by it as I normally would be. And I think for some people that's still like they're like, are you really, like, are you good? And if you aren't, tell us, let us know so we can like figure out what's what. And I don't think people realize sometimes you need that type of conversation to like get through different pieces of your life or your journey or whatever. And personally, I think that has been what's been helping me through more than anything, is just really trying to like work through myself. And as we hear the old saying, like figuring it out. So like I said, I'm getting better. Things are getting better. Life is getting better. To say without saying, it's not even that I'm trying to autopilot into the new year, but I'm like, I want to just rock out and get what I need to get done, but then also make sure I'm not like leaving any pages unturned. And that's probably been one of the biggest battles more than anything else, is like making sure that if I'm giving myself the proper effort, that I'm giving it with the proper, I'm matching the energy that's necessary to match. I'm doing like because I had a message that I saw and I was like, I need to make sure I get back to it and not ignore it. But that's where that's at and how that's all been coming along. Going to, I think, well, I've talked about the backlog already. No, I didn't talk about the backlog. I'll share that in a second. But I'm gonna give this a really, really, really abbreviated yet overall depiction, dissection, however we want to have fun with this one. You pick what you think is in your best fields for how to sit with it, and I'm just gonna kind of start the convo, and we'll let it be what it is. Well, I did bring my mouse pad. Go me. Golden State Warriors and the Timberwolves have an interesting non-holy/holy matrimony. And what I mean by that is you can tell that the torch is beginning to be passed. Now, even though some of the players on this team may not get close to a championship, and I'm not putting that out in the universe like they'll never win a championship. It's just, unless you're in the right system with the right team and the right coaching, it's going to take a lot of work. So I start with that because the Warriors have been down this road. They have won, I think they've been to the finals 6 times, won 4. Not a bad resume, not a bad run, if I were to say so. Teams are gonna come at your head because you have won an NBA championship. When Denver won last year, Denver knew everybody was going the target is on their back for this year. Before that, it was Boston and Golden State. So here it is. You have the Timberwolves, who have a young core, very, very direct team, let you know what it is. They have one game against each other. Anthony Edwards goes towards the basket and, attempts to go for a dunk. And Draymond's looking at him like, you thought you was going to get that? And Anthony Edwards is like, yeah, I mean, I'm in this league for a reason. I'm still getting, I'm reaping the full benefits of the NBA for a reason. If I wasn't, I wouldn't be on this floor. And fast forward later into this same game, Anthony Edwards catch one of the Warriors players baseline, caught him slipping, got a dunk on him. Draymond, all he could do was look, and I think Minnesota ended up winning that game. These two teams play again. And in this matchup, the intensity is high, the tension is massive. So, and I'm gonna give you this play from how I saw it and kind of break down like what's what, and we'll let it be what it be. McDaniels and Clay were in a little bit of a chippy point with each other. Clay pulled at McDaniels' jersey. If you watch the replay of the game, you saw it. It was clear as day. Referee gave no reaction to it. Understandable. It's basketball. Well, McDaniels felt a certain way about that, and so he actually went towards Clay and ripped his jersey. Like he pulled at his jersey, but successfully was able to rip it. So as he rips the jersey, it becomes a scuffle. Now, NBA scuffles are very weird today because if you really want that true, honest assessment, most NBA players cannot fight. That's just that's a take that I've set on, and it's a take that's been evident and clear in every interaction that I've watched with players in the NBA. So as this all happens, Rudy Gobert comes on the court, or he may have already been on the court, and he was trying to get Clay away from McDaniels. It may have been like a hold, but it was enough of a pull to say, hey, I need you to get off my teammate. Now, one Steven Adams pull, because we know Steven Adams would have probably got him right on up and got him right out of there. But fast forward, as Gobert goes for Clay, Draymond finds it in his interest, I need to protect my teammate. So I'm going to protect my teammate by putting this man in a chokehold. And it was like he literally turned into a wrestler without the script. When he went to grab this guy and grab for his neck, and I think what everybody has talked about more than any of this is that nobody from Minnesota helped in getting him out of that hold. My first question that I thought of, and this popped in my head just now. Matter of fact, before we even do that, I'm gonna look this up because I might be able to answer my own question. No, where are we going? Let's see. Okay, so yeah, all right, that answers my question. So Kyle Anderson is still with the Timberwolves. Where was Kyle Anderson in this play? Now, if he was on the bench, of course, he's not going to leave the bench because you get fined for leaving the bench. But if he was one of the players on the court and didn't help him, that's kind of messed up. But it's also like not a surprise because they got tension and they got a story. Karl Anthony Towns didn't step in to help. Anthony Edwards didn't step in to help. Obviously, McDaniels didn't help because he was in the midst of his own stuff. But this man had him in a hole for a good little while. And then to make it worse, they walk off the court. I think Draymond ended up getting suspended 5 games. Everybody was like, should he have gotten suspended? I'm like, this is part of his track record to like cause a lot of tension. And by the way, and someone also brought this up, this always becomes a thing when Steph does not play. And you wonder to yourself, like, so you don't do this when Steph play. What makes it a difference of you having to do it in games that he doesn't play? But it all is what it is. But it was just the most instant hit or moment of it happening. And the thing that's so interesting about it, and no one really says this about Draymond or says this about basketball, and this is even a lot of those other chippy players, they know who to do it with, who to have these type of interactions with. Because the players that they know, if they was going to have smoke, they ain't about it. You see and you learn, like, you ain't really on that type of time. Like, there's certain NBA players today that could not handle, I won't even say 90s basketball. I will say, like, and somewhat, I ain't even going to say somewhat. Rip Hamilton talked about this on a podcast, and I didn't even know this until he brought it up. Apparently, when Malice in the Palace happened, Draymond Green was at that game, and I was like, "Wow." They mentioned that he was kind of like around Detroit's locker room or there's like connecting with them, just kind of I guess get some insight and some understanding of like basketball. But the thing is, Draymond's not about that life. And I think it's so bad that he gives off like he is. But it's certain players when it comes to him, like, yeah, he gonna talk, but like anybody, talk is talk. Like, unless you really on that, I'm about that action. Like I think Pat Bev don't care. I think Westbrook is getting older now, so Westbrook's learning. Like, look, I don't need to have these battles with y'all, but he gets put in those chippy situations too. But I think it's just tough because when you look at it and you really hear like the full breakdown of all that happened, it's like the big question is, dang, do anybody really got Gobert back like that? And it's like all that he's already gone through enough with the NBA and battling to become like the guy and not being the guy, and like I don't even think he got an All-Star nod this year. Last year he didn't get one last year, but it'll be interesting if he gets one next year or this coming All-Star, based on like the level, the factor of the big man, especially on the West. But hey, we'll see what happens when we get to it. But it was just something. The whole thing was just something that I thought about and was like considering when all this happened. I was like, dang, Draymond really was on that type of time just from that one play. It was like, was it really that necessary? But apparently it was. So the backlog, I've kind of talked about this already a little bit, but to kind of give you an idea, right now, and I can tell y'all without telling y'all because it's all right here. I have 2 episodes that I've held on to of actual podcasts. We're counting this one as one that's going to be going up, and then I also have a lot of them saved on my phone, which I think I'm still like in shock of how many I have, but I want to say I have one. When was this show recorded? Because this will tell me everything I need to know. Get info. That was on the 8th. Wow. Yeah, I don't think none. No, wait, hold on. I'm sorry. 10-5. Oh, we got a lot of stuff, dude. Yeah, we got a lot of shows in the queue. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I have about 11 voice recordings that will be going up. And I'm gonna try to get them all up. Like, I try to listen to them, make sure it's nothing crazy that was being said. Because as anyone knows, like, a lot of folks are like, well, why don't you do your podcast live? And I'm like, because I know me, but I also know, like, I have to be considerate of, like, what I'm sharing or what needs to be said. Because some things you don't need to have in the spotlight if it ain't necessary to put in the spotlight. Plain and simple. That's like a ledge or a hill that I'll, like, die on and be okay with dying on, because it's just what it is. But yeah, that's kind of the full synopsis of the backlogs. In case anyone was wondering, they are there. No, there are shows. It ain't that I haven't recorded anything. It's just I have not put anything to wax or to like being placed in the in Buzzsprout. Like, I've really, to be fair, I don't think I've opened Buzzsprout since the beginning of last month. That's how long it's been as far as what I have like stored away and available to listen. But you will be getting those audios, trust and believe. Anyone that's following the podcast, you'll probably hear this one late. But you'll be like, oh, he really won't play. Like, he had a whole bunch of stuff that ain't gone up in a while. And I'm like, all right, we gonna work through it. So that's just what it is. Wait, you got this room? Hey, all right, give me 1 sec. Another episode is completed. Thank you all for listening. If you want to check out the podcast, you can go to buzzsprout.com. If you're looking to do podcasts, you can go to buzzsprout.com. To get to my podcast, you'll go to the pastbtpod.buzzsprout.com. If you're looking at getting a microphone, I always suggest getting the Blue Yeti X. That is the microphone that I use. If you're starting off and you need something more affordable, Samson Meteor, it's a worthwhile investment. And there are other microphones that are going to be simple enough. My big suggestion I tell everyone whenever looking for a microphone, be sure that your microphone has the ability to have you listen to your audio or listen to yourself as you're talking. It will make a big difference in your editing in your podcast. Also, most importantly, and I tell people this is a tip offline, but I'm giving this in the final listen or at the end of the show. Drink water while recording, and also just drink water in general. But drink water while you're recording, and the reason why, you'll be surprised. All right, see y'all on the next show.